And welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Beyond the Forecast. I am Chief Meteorologist Michael Stevens, and today is going to be a fun episode for you. All the episodes are fun, but today I'm going to take you into a fun experiment that the whole family can enjoy. Baking soda and vinegar rockets. Yes, this one has to be done outside. You don't want to do it inside. Someone's going to get a little upset if it's done inside. But we show you how to make a baking soda and vinegar rocket and how to set it off. And we give you all the ingredients and what it takes to send one into orbit. Now, all right, might not go that high, but it's a lot of fun to do with the family. Now, meteorologist John Gross will then have an explanation on steam fog. Basically how steam fog and fog in general is created and what you can do to look out for it, whether it's morning commutes or if you're going to be out and about and there's probably going to be a good chance of fog. What causes that? We'll have all that coming up for you. And then at the end of the show, myself and meteorologist Haley Fischetti, every week we have the Beyond the Forecast live streaming podcast where you can discuss with us a topic. And this week's topic was Tornado Alley. So we talked about that, and we will have the latest segment from that podcast this past Tuesday. But before we jump into the show, let's talk about this day in weather history. We got to go back a ways for this one. I'm not talking early 1900s or even 1800s. 1784. All right, take yourself back to when America was just a wee little lad. On this day, May 8, 1784, that's right, 1784, a deadly hailstorm hit South Carolina in the town of Winnsboro. The hailstones measuring as much as 9 inches in diameter, or in circumference, killed several people and a great number of sheep, lambs, and birds. 1784, 9-inch hailstones, so circumference, 9-inch hailstones. So essentially, people were out and about, storm rolls in, and remember, 1784, there's not much in the way of giving you any warning of that. But yeah, really moved in and really was a crazy experience for South Carolina way back in the day. So that's a wild history fact for you. Trivia. Now, Monday, you have to go all the way back to Monday because we had soccer Tuesday and Wednesday, so no episodes. But Monday we asked, true or false, raindrops are in the shape of teardrops. Well, that's false. And, you know, artist depictions and weather graphics show you teardrop, raindrops. But remember, as they're falling from the sky, you're going to have wind and friction, and it's flattening them out. So actually, raindrops do not look like teardrops. All right, today we want to know, true or false, lightning doesn't strike in the same place twice. True or false, lightning doesn't strike in the same spot twice. We'll have that answer for you tomorrow, but if you want to answer, QR code. Hit that with your phone, and it'll take you to where you can answer your answer, and we'll let you know the answer tomorrow on Beyond the Forecast. Viewer photo of the day, brought to you by Great Rooms as always. This one is a beautiful photo. This one sent in to us from Raymond Randstadler. He said, sunrise of Skikimog. And check it out. This is absolutely gorgeous. I believe this is a drone shot, but it's a beautiful sight. You can see the steam fog on the inland. You can see the fog over the lake. And then you can also see the temperature differences in where the fog is and where you have the clear sections. Absolutely gorgeous photo of that sunrise. So thank you so much, Raymond, for sending in that beautiful photo. And thank you to Great Rooms, as always, for sponsoring viewer photo of the day. All right, let's jump into our show. I'm going to take you outside here and put together, yes, a baking soda and vinegar rocket. I'll show you how to do it so you can do it at home. We'll have that coming up right after the break. And welcome everyone to Beyond the Forecast. We're outside today for an experiment, and you definitely don't want to do this one outside because today we are going to make baking soda and vinegar rockets. As all my tools are blowing away because the wind decided to be a great time to pick up. You definitely don't want a super windy day, but today it's not too bad, but it'll just make it more fun, right? All right, so what you're going to need is, we'll start off with kind of the basics. You'll need some baking soda, of course, and I brought that from home. You're gonna need a little bit of paper towel, and we'll explain why in a little bit. You're gonna need some corks to go into where the cap is on your pop bottle. You're gonna need some tape, just some regular old tape will work fine. And then you're also gonna need some vinegar. And then you're also, of course, going to need a bottle. So for the first one, I have a little 20-ounce pop bottle, and I have put some legs on it. So you'll need some sticks. I have used the plastic cutlery for my legs because you can either set it in the ground or you can have it like this. So once the pressure takes off. So you need something for it to stand so it can take off. And you can either use sticks or you can use something that will get it below the cap so it can stand. But we are going to run you through the steps of how to make a baking soda vinegar rocket. And it's super fun. So get your parents involved because you definitely don't want any accidents. Make sure you have safety goggles because this one's a little bit on timing, and we'll explain why. We're not making a super in-depth rocket, but we are making a rocket that is going to be based off of pressure generated by the mixture of baking soda and vinegar. And you have to time it just right. There has to be a slow release. Otherwise, it'll take off before you can enjoy it. And we'll explain that in a little bit too. But let's get making our rockets, shall we? So first up, what you're going to want to do is to make your rocket. You're going to want an empty pop bottle. And you know how a pop bottle usually sits like this? Well, you got to turn it upside down because the pressure is going to be released from where the cap is. So what you're going to want to do is have your pop bottle upside down, and you're going to want your feet so it can sit on the ground with the cap area raised. So take your tape and take your sticks, or in my case, plastic knives, and tape that to your bottle. And it doesn't matter where you tape it, but make sure it's kind of like a triangle. So you have 3 sides so it can sit on the ground. Nice, just like that. So go ahead, tape your sticks on your pop bottle. And now you have a rocket ship. But now we need to start thinking about the fuel for your rocket ship. So first up, you're going to need vinegar. And you can dump your vinegar in prior to your legs, or you can do it after, either or. If you have a big jug like I do, a funnel's probably best, but we can get it in there. It'll be all right. So what you want to do is go with probably 1/4 of the bottle of vinegar. That's a good amount of vinegar. And then we'll put the cap back on for now. So vinegar done. Now we're going to have to find a way to slow release our baking soda. Because if you just put baking soda in there, you're not going to have time to put the cork back in and run away. Baking soda and vinegar create carbon dioxide, and that pressure generates very quickly. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to get some paper towel. And what you'll do is take 1 sheet of paper towel. Probably don't even need that. In fact, half of 1 sheet will probably be just fine. So what you want to do here is you want your sheet to look like this, and then pour some baking soda into the sheet, kind of on a line. And what we're going to do is we are going to roll this up like a burrito, and then put some tape on it so it will slow release, so it doesn't release the pressure quickly, but we can dump it into the bottle with the towel, and then it will slow release, and then we can step back, and then at some point it will go up in the air. So when you have your baking soda on your paper towel, start rolling it up. So you roll it up so it looks like a burrito, and then we'll tape it. So that way you can put it down this way first and no baking soda comes out. But when you flip it upside down, the baking soda will start coming out. So voila, like that. Now you also want to make sure that it will fit in the hole of the pop bottle that you're using. There we go. And in fact, I think we'll tear off the top little bit that has nothing in it. That way, a little more ease of access. There we go. So that is ready. Now, you also want to find a cork that will fit in your preferred bottle. I also have a 2-liter over there that will do next. But you want to make sure whichever cork you're using fits snug. So that way, it takes a good amount of pressure to get rid of the cork and send it flying. This cork just doesn't fit quite right. There's not enough pressure there. So we want to use this cork. That's good pressure right there. All right. So let's get our legs back on it and straight. And this is the exciting part. So before we do this, we want to make sure our camera angles are good so you can see exactly everything that is happening. So let's get our camera angle set up before we put our baking soda in the vinegar and cork it and see if this works out swimmingly, shall we? All right. Be ready. This one might go quick. Whoa! We did it! I don't know if we got it on the other camera. Whoa! So there you go. Fun experiment that you can do at home. A little baking soda, a little vinegar, pop bottle, and pretty simple to do. And you can make it a little bit more in depth if you can somehow find a pressure release valve that will go in a pop bottle so you can have the pressure release and it won't just poof and then done. But yeah, there's many different ways that you can engineer this to be a little bit fuel efficient, if you will, but definitely a lot of fun that you can do with the kids, and kids you can do with your parents and show them just how to make a pop bottle fly. And then you can also make some pieces that you can put a nose on your rocket, give it some color, customize it to your liking. But there you go. That is a fun experiment that we will have on our socials as well as on our YouTube channel. And if you need more information, you can always get a hold of us, whether it's weather@910news.com or on the Beyond the Forecast Facebook page. If you need more on those ingredients and what it takes, don't worry. You can always get a hold of us. Now, coming up next, we send it over to meteorologist John Gross. He's going to tell you about fog. We'll have that coming up right after the break.
Hey there, everybody. Meteorologist John Gross. Today, we're going to be talking about how exactly does fog develop. Just remember that fog is just a cloud at the surface. And that's just so happened to be where we live. So that can be inconvenient for visibility issues if you're traveling on the road, things of that nature. So it's a little bit more important to us, especially when we have the chance for fog to develop. Now, there are different types. Today, we're going to focus on what we call steam fog. And you can think of steam fog very similar to how lake effect snow, lake effect rain, or even lake effect cloud cover does develop. So we're talking about our lake here, and now we have to take a look at our temperature profiles. So the water temperature is going to be warmer than what the air temperature is right above the lake. So for this example, you're talking about the water at 58. You're talking about the air temperature at 49. So we have that colder air mass moving over our relatively warmer lake. And once we start to see that scenario happening, we have what's called instability in the atmosphere. And remember, warmer air, it's more buoyant. It wants to freely rise. So once we're starting to see this take place, that water, at least on the surface of the lake, will start to rise and then evaporate. and that's when you're starting to see a little bit more moisture added to the air right near the surface of the lake. So now we're starting to talk about evaporation, and also during that process, the air itself right near the surface of the lake, that also is starting to warm up too. So now we're talking about evaporation. We're talking about the air right near the surface of the lake starting to get a little bit warmer. And once we start to see that moisture, now it's starting to freely rise. And now we're going to change the state of it from a liquid eventually to a gas, otherwise known as water vapor. And that's how we can visually start to see it with our eyes. And that's when you start to see that steam starting to build right over the lake. And you can easily see this on a morning when you're talking about this scenario taking place with the warmer water, if it's a colder morning, over a lake, over a river, if you just happen to be driving by the roadway, or even a puddle too. You can see this happening. Very, very common to see steam fog. So remember, when you're talking about traveling, these are some good tips, especially on the roadway. Maybe you live or there's a lake or some big body of water by a main roadway that you drive by. You definitely could run into some foggy conditions and some reduced visibility. So if you're traveling and you ever do happen to come across fog, always use your low beam headlights, use your fog lamps. Do not use your high beam headlights. It's going to look like you are driving right into a cloud, and you're not going to be able to see much, if anything at all. Give yourself more stopping distance. Same deal when we're talking about rain. Same deal when we're talking about snow. Any inclement weather, making sure that you have enough time to stop, to give yourself time so you don't run into the person in front of you. And then last but not least, always make sure that you are just slowing down, driving for the conditions, and if you need to pull off to the side, if the fog is too dense, until it does start to lift or at least mix out of the atmosphere, that could be a good idea. But again, if you do have to travel in the fog, that's the main message. Use your low beam headlights, give yourself enough distance between you and the car in front of you, and just slow down so you can get to your destination safely. I'm meteorologist John Gross reporting for Beyond the Forecast.
Thanks, John. Now, coming up next, we take you into our Beyond the Forecast live streaming podcast, where this week we talked about Tornado Alley. We'll have a segment from that coming up right after the break.
And welcome back, everyone, to the last segment of Beyond the Forecast. Now, Tuesday, we had our Beyond the Forecast live streaming podcast. Me and meteorologist Haley Fischetti sat down to talk with you about Tornado Alley and kind of where Tornado Alley was when it was taught to at least me as a kid, and maybe some of you when you were kids. It's not so much just that little section from Texas to the Great Lakes anymore. It's expanding. It's evolving. But why? Well, we went over some of that. Check this out.
So there is a strip of area
Yes.
from Texas to the Great Lakes.
Yep.
So in particular, Michigan, Wisconsin, but it goes from a diagonal. That is where you see cold air from Canada collide with warm air from the Gulf. That is where you tend to see a lot of tornado outbreaks. That is Tornado Alley. But let's talk about how that strip is kind of evolving, because before it was like kind of dead set. You'd always see tornadoes, Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas.
You could almost draw a line of, I remember
The Plains
there's
states.
research. Yeah, you could literally draw a line of like most tornadoes in an area, and it was always in that specific spot. But kind of, if people have been paying attention to the podcast in the past couple weeks, you've been mentioning a lot how our cold line is changing.
Yep.
And that's kind of the case for everyone. It's not.
So there you go. The Beyond the Forecast live streaming podcast every Tuesday on the Beyond the Forecast Facebook page at 10 a.m. or the 910 News YouTube channel, my professional Facebook page, or also the 910 News Facebook page. You can come in, check it out, and also talk with us live and ask us questions and discussion on a topic that you pick some weeks, or if we have a themed week, that we will choose that topic and talk about that. So you can go back to the 910 News YouTube channel and watch it, or you can also go back to the Facebook channels and watch it, or wherever you pick up your podcast. We are currently hard at work getting those on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you take in your podcast, so you can listen to it or watch it. Kind of double whammy. Pretty good for you. So thank you for joining us for this episode of Beyond the Forecast. We will be right back here tomorrow at 4:30 to 5 o'clock to talk more science and weather with you and give you more of the science behind your weather. So for meteorologist John Gross, as well as meteorologist Haley Fischetti, I am Chief Meteorologist Michael Stevens. Thank you for joining us. As always, we'll be back here tomorrow. Be good, stay safe, take care. We'll see you tomorrow on Beyond the Forecast.